Well, welcome to week one. This is an overview of something that should be very important in your investigation and understanding of operations and supply chain management. This is an overview of the different models that are used to depict the supply chain. And what I'm going to ask you to do is go through this review and then pick one of the models that will be your personal guide. Models serve the purpose of depicting something that's large and complex, that's too big to put your arms around. A model can be thought of as like a map. So with a map we can see where the mountains are and where the roads are and the rivers and those kind of things. So that's what this model is served as. It serves as a personal guide and a professional guide through the course. And it'll also be used in your project in the second half of the course to guide you through an assessment project with the purpose of finding opportunities in these things. So if we start out with an enterprise model, we see that we have all the different operations and activities in a company, with the executive level, support services, marketing, creation of products, and so forth. And also we see that there are 4 decision levels, starting with in the most important in the hierarchy, the plan and strategy, and then structure, which is the design, the resource structure, tactics, which is our midterm operating plans, and then execution, which is where the rubber hits the road. And notice that these plans and strategies, these 4 decision levels, are shared by all the different processes in the organization. So below the line then we have the customer service operations, which is our supply chain. And we've got the processes that we'll be studying. The 5 basic or 5 most key processes which execute the supply chain. Alright, so this is the enterprise model, and also in our model you can notice that we have a quadruple bottom line, because our model is trying to optimize and do trade-offs to do the best job of producing value for 4 different aspects. One is certainly customer value. If customers don't see any value, then game's over. The next one is economic value. If shareholders don't see any value, game over. People value, which is people that are involved in the process and are party to the process. They're often called stakeholders. If they don't see any value, game over. And finally, the newest one on the block that is gaining in importance is societal value. And if society doesn't find value in our organization, game over. So, and we can't pick and choose. We need to create value in all 4 of these. So the study of this course is going to be, how can we add value to the quadruple bottom line? Here's the first model. This one was one that kind of kicked off the models and more or less was responsible for the foundation of what's now called supply chain management. It's the Porter value chain model. And Michael Porter came out with a creation of organization and how value is created. And thankfully for supply chain people, in his value creation activities are 4 of the major processes which are supply chain related. Only marketing and sales, which creates value by creating demand, is outside what is the typical supply chain. But inbound logistics, operations, outbound logistics, and service are all supply chain, key supply chain activities. He also identified upstream activities before things get to released to the customer, and then downstream activities which are customer facing. He also correctly identified support activities. The resource networks that are that enable the execution processes were identified as technology, people, and infrastructure, which is the physical structure. The only peculiarity to Porter's model is the placement of procurement, which is now thought of as one of the value creation activities. But that was a small departure of his model from what is being used now, and the thought process was procurement applies to all the resources for the organization, but when we apply it to the goods and services, it is now thought of as part of the supply chain. So Porter is still a very good model to use for study of the supply chain. One that the industry came up with that was started by consultants in the 1980s and 90s is the SCORE model, Supply Chain Operational Readiness model, and Supply Chain Operations Reference model. And this was 5,000 companies that came together. Well, roughly 2,500 started. It's up to 5,000 now that have joined it to standardize what they conclude in the scope of their supply chain. So it's similar to Porter, except that it brought sourcing, which is procurement, into line. Still has make, deliver, and return services. So it kept the execution processes. What this model doesn't show specifically or separately is the tactics and the design structure. They are located within the plan and embedded also in the execution processes. And there are multiple levels below this. It actually is a very usable benchmarking model, because companies who join this SCORE council, so it's called the Supply Chain Council, they put their own internal metrics in here in each one of these areas of how they source, how they make, how they deliver, and then they go in and can draw comparisons. So we'll use this actually when we talk about performance measurement and performance evaluation. But for the purposes of this level of introduction, this is a usable map to study that can study and identify the different areas that we're going to be studying in the course, the SCORE model. The one that the course is going to use, and this doesn't necessarily mean that you have to use it, but the one that the course is structured around to identify the content and to identify the different activities within supply chain is called the Operations Supply Chain Management Value Chain Model. And it has the 4 different levels of decisions that were taken right from the enterprise model: the planning structure, plan, design structure, operating tactics, and execution management. It takes the SCORE and the Porter model execution processes. For purchasing, it's now called the acquire process. Manufacturing, conversion, deliver, logistics is the deliver process. Support is service management, and order management is the commit process. And it sandwiches that all in between creating demand, which is marketing and sales, and creating solutions, which is R&D. And it also connects to the rest of the organization inside for support. And we will cover each of these decision levels. These are the 4 sections in the course. So we will cover each one of these, beginning with the planning process, planning strategy. The second area will be execution management. We'll go to the other end and look to see how supply chains execute. The second half of the course will cover design structure, and the concluding section will be operating tactics. A look at the full detail of the model. We call this one the 4A model. Shows that the detail inside each of the 4 different decision levels. So we have the decision levels over here: the planning level, the structural design level, tactics, and schedule and execution. And again, we will cover each one of these as far as the first 3 sessions will cover planning. The next 4 sessions will cover the processes and the integrated execution of the processes, which will actually take us back to strategy and design and forecast and economics as we figure out how to optimize these individual processes. The second half of the course will look at the development of the infrastructure, facilities, the technology that we use, and the personnel organization. And then the tactics will include the use of outsourcing, which is prevalent in supply chain, performance evaluation, performance improvement, and some automation alternatives. So that's the way the course will be designed. Because of the course, this structure, we'll be jumping around a little bit in the textbook. The author uses a different organizational structure. He has a model in the beginning, in the preface of the book, or the chapter 1. So don't be confused that we're jumping around. I'm pulling the pieces out that fit into this model that we're using in the course. And finally, regardless of which of the supply chain models we use, the model for ultimate success in supply chains are extended enterprises or supply channels. And the supply channel model, as we looked at in the overview, includes everything from raw material sources to the users, and then also services supplied to the users after consumption. So we're looking at all members involved from source to consumption, and then recycling. And this is the ultimate collaboration, or the ultimate orchestration of supply chains, and one that was befitting of the highest order of supply chain optimization and value creation. All right, so that's the end of the overview of the models. And again, please pick one of the models. Everyone picks this one because this is not a supply chain model, but pick one of the 3 supply chain models. Either the operations value chain model, which is going to be used in the course, the SCORE model, which has been adopted by industry, or the Porter model, which is one of the foundation models. So that you'll have your own roadmap to follow through your personal value creation through the course. It'll make it easier to understand and allow you to follow the content more easily. All right, we're done. Thanks.